Blood slowly dripped from the hanging left arm. Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes were staring at Natsuki's Zanpakuto, and the electric arc made him feel palpitations. Is this your Zanpakuto ability? Ignoring the current identities of the two, Byakuya Kuchiki asked in a flat voice. Zanpakuto ability. No, just squeeze Ryotsu on the tip of the knife. Natsuki put on a playful smile. Certainly, don't look at the simplicity of this. If you don't have the skills in hand, just compress Ryotsu on Zanpakuto, although it can also increase the attack power, but the effect is definitely not as exaggerated as the real tree. At the same time, Byakuya Kuchiki is well aware of this. Ignoring the injury on his left arm, he looked at Natsuki again, his tone remained calm. But this time, mixed with self-confidence. That's right, but it's never possible to beat me with this skill. The moment the sound fell, hold Senbon Sakura tightly with your right hand, then flip your wrist, with the tip of the knife pointing down. Let go. Senbon Sakura slowly sinks into the ripples on the ground and disappears. Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi. Unlike some captains. In order to avoid consumption of Ryotsu, try not to use swastika solution. Byakuya Kuchiki is different. He knows that the gap between himself and Natsuki is not too big. If he only uses Shikai, it is tantamount to creating opportunities for the opponent. So, in order to end the battle as soon as possible. At this moment, he used his solution without hesitation. I saw the left and right sides of Byakuya Kuchiki slowly growing huge blades. Judging from the appearance, it was the disappeared Senbon Sakura. Same as all huge blades start from the tip. All turned into countless blade fragments, falling behind Byakuya Kuchiki like sakura flowers scattered. If we assume, on the degree of splendor in the interpretation. Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi is undoubtedly the number one. Have you used the swastika solution so quickly? You're really stupid. Seeing this scene, for a moment, the corner of Natsuki's mouth twitched slightly. He didn't expect that Byakuya Kuchiki would be so cautious, and he opened up directly after being slashed by himself. And also, are you serious about skimming behind you? Perhaps it was the experience of being attacked by Natsuki with Zanpakuto Shikai in the present world. When Byakuya Kuchiki used the swastika solution, he subconsciously glanced behind him, and looked at Natsuki again when he saw nothing unusual. See the slightly twitching appearance of the other party's mouth. I mistakenly thought it was the first time I saw the swastika and was shocked, so I kindly explained. There are two kinds of liberation of Zanpakuto. Number 1. The sealed state lent by Shino Lingxuan to students. The owner writes his own spirit and beliefs, thus becoming the only Zanpakuto, which is the first stage, Shikai. Asterisk 2. After a period of practice, the owner is one with his own Zanpakuto mind, and the soul of the Zanpakuto knife is manifested, making it obedient to the owner and gaining more powerful power. That is the second stage, swastika solution. Speaking of which, Byakuya Kuchiki's voice returned to its previous flatness. And the state I'm using now is Zanpakuto's second liberation swastika solution. In fact, he still has nothing to say. Part of the Zanpakuto swastika will change the attire of the clothes and give the Shinigami 5 to 10 times the Ryotsu of the Shikai state. And his swastika Senbon Sakura Kageyoshi, due to the need to control hundreds of millions of blades, its spiritual power has increased by a maximum of 10 times. So, Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes moved slightly. Facing a swastika 10 times stronger than Shikai. You Natsuki, what did you use to win me, and what did you use to win me? Thinking of this, Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes flickered, looked at the tree in the distance, raised his right hand lightly, and made a gesture of waving. Wow! The moment the action falls, countless sakura flowers fluttered behind themselves, making a rustling sound, and rushed towards Natsuki. Boundless sakura flowers, like a turbulent pink ocean, overwhelming attack. At the same time, Rukia in the penitentiary. Now you don't need to perceive Ryotsu, you can see countless sakura flowers emerging out of thin air in the distant battlefield. This is Shikai, but the next moment, she seemed to realize something again. His eyes widened, and he looked at the scenery outside the window in disbelief. The raging ocean of sakura flowers rushes to one side, as if it wants to swallow everything in the world. No, Big Brother doesn't have so many Shikai. Could this be Byakuya Big Brother's solution? As Byakuya Kuchiki's stepsister, Rukia has seen him for the first time in decades. But never thought of it. It will be in this situation that you will see a solution. At this moment, Rukia couldn't help but feel a bit sad. That man who has never looked me in the eye, for the dignity of the Kuchiki family, even if he does not hesitate to use swastika, he will stop Natsuki and prevent him from saving me. Thinking of this, Rukia looked at the battlefield in the distance. While feeling sad in my heart, I was also worried about the man who broke into Soul Society for himself. Natsuki. You, don't let anything happen. And at this moment, the center of the battlefield in front of the Palace of Confessions. Natsuki stood in place, looking at the pink ocean rushing towards him, feeling the feeling of his skin being cut by a blade. Suddenly, the corner of the mouth raised a wild smile. Byakuya Kuchiki, no, my dear uncle. I didn't know how to complete the swastika solution before, but I never thought about it. After your explanation, I realized that the swastika solution is such a simple thing. This moment, control Senbon Sakura's Byakuya Kuchiki from a distance. Hearing Natsuki's words, I don't know why my heart suddenly trembled, and a thought that made him tremble suddenly popped up in my mind. At the same time, Natsuki about to be swallowed by the pink ocean. But he slowly raised the knife, pointed his finger in the air, and slowly spit out a few words. Swastika. Like rain and Yoli, heaven and earth tribulation. Boom. In an instant, the faint blue Ryotsu burst out instantly. It continued to spread toward the sky and the ground, and in the blink of an eye, both of them were dyed a faint blue color. And at this moment, watching this scene, Byakuya Kuchiki was completely dumbfounded. No, it's impossible. How could you grasp the solution in an instant? Well known, Shinigami's Shikai is easy to master, as long as it is Shinigami, even if it takes time to grind, it can master its own Shikai. But the solution is different. Even the gifted Shinigami can take decades to master. Seeing Natsuki in the distance, the depths of Byakuya Kuchiki's pupils are filled with shock. How long did it take him? 1 minute, 30 seconds, or 10 seconds? Just by hearing one's own interpretation of the swastika, one has mastered the swastika, a talent unheard of before. However, no matter how shocking Byakuya Kuchiki is, Natsuki in the distance has really completed understanding. The dazzling light dissipated, and Natsuki's appearance at this time was also revealed in Byakuya Kuchiki's eyes. Dead bully pretends to disappear, it was replaced by the same blue and white chivalrous suit worn by Yoli. Natsuki, who is tall and tall, wears the same blue and white chivalrous suit, showing a somewhat heroic and chic posture. The appearance of the Zanpakuto in the hand has not changed. But a thin layer of faint blue electric light crackles from time to time from the knife, lighting up the dark surroundings. Certainly, Yuri's phantom appeared beside Natsuki. Zanpakuto in her hand, together with a layer of faint blue electric glow. At the same time, the rushing pink ocean arrived in front of him. Looking at the pink ocean that is approaching in front of him, Natsuki chuckled softly. Come with me and turn this world upside down, yes, my lord Natsuki. Yuri leaned slightly. Immediately, draw the knife, cut it out, draw it back. In an instant, the above 3 actions are completed. Boom. The world is changing color at this moment. This is not a metaphor, but a scene that actually happened. With a single slash, the Yulin Daomang is invincible, and all the spirits in the sky and the earth are forcibly attracted towards the Yulin Daomang. Inflated, the faint blue sword light is rapidly expanding. In just a few breaths, the sword glow expanded dozens of times in size. The moment the rushing pink ocean collided with it, it was forcefully pushed back to the original direction. The lingering momentum is irresistible, this moment. Looking at the sea of Senbon Sakura being pushed back. Natsuki, don't think that you can beat me by mastering the solution. Byakuya Kuchiki reached out and took control himself, trying to repress the Senbon Sakura ocean against Natsuki. But, the moment you take control with your own hands. Byakuya Kuchiki felt an unparalleled pressure. No matter how he manipulated Senbon Sakura, he couldn't resist the oncoming faint blue blade light, and his expression froze for a moment. At the same time, Senbon Sakura ocean is in retreat. Even that faint blue sword light has descended in front of me. Facing the gigantic sword light that almost occupied the entire field of vision, Byakuya Kuchiki subconsciously manipulated Senbon Sakura. Gather hundreds of millions of blades together. Form a shield and stand in front of yourself. However, an unbelievable scene happened. The moment the shield and the sword light touched each other, it cracked from the middle, and it didn't last for a while. Then, Byakuya Kuchiki confronts Dao Man unsuspectingly. The faint blue light magnified in the pupils, and the rapid heartbeat sounded like the death bell ringing at this moment. Boom. Boom. Huge dark blue sword light slashed far from the Palace of Penitence in an instant. While cutting it off, it kept plundering the spirits of the sky and the earth. While cutting off everything on the way, it continues to expand, with the stance of splitting the entire Seirei in two. No one can stop it for a while, this scene. Not to mention Rukia, who was locked up in the Penance Palace. The Shinigami of the entire Seirei could see the huge blue light of the sword, and they were all stunned. What's the situation? Where did this blade glow come from? Also, why is this sword glow so big? Why no one came to stop it? At this time, one doubt after another, on the mind of all Shinigami who keep on going. Especially those Shinigami who are low in strength but stand in the way of Daomang's advance, they are almost scared to death. Run, everyone, run. Forget about the team building. Everyone leaves the team building immediately, this is an order. The team building of a certain team, just in the middle of the Daomang's advancing route. The Shinigami in the team building panicked and ran out of the team building, fleeing to the distance for refuge. A team Yamamoto Intervenes was standing by the fence on the roof. The eyes that were originally closed to restrain their anger when they learned of Aizen's death, slowly opened as if they had sensed something. Caught the eye. But it is a huge sword light that is still expanding. Its size, according to visual judgment, is almost 3 stories high, and it can't help but attract people's attention. How dare these travelers? Looking at the buildings destroyed by the huge sword light along the way. The anger in Yamamoto Intervenes' eyes could not be suppressed at all. Instead of continuing to restrain himself, he jumped directly from the tall building instead. Boom. The moment it landed, a pothole appeared on the ground. But the figure of Yamamoto Intervenes, the moment he landed, he rushed towards the sword light, leaving afterimages behind him because of his high speed. 3rd Division Ichimaru Jin, who just came back from Todai Sebi. Before he had time to enter the captain's room, he suddenly noticed a huge burst of Ryotsu. Based on his experience, it is not difficult to judge that this is Shinigami's solution. Only. This extremely strange Ryotsu let him forget for a while when this kind of character appeared in Seirei. The important thing is, Ichimaru Jin looked at Aizen, who appeared beside him at some point, and joked. Ouch. Looks like Captain Aizen's plan this time. It seems that there are some troubles. Do you need me to go over and find out? Wen Yan, Aizen, who appeared from beside Ichimaru Jin. There was still that gentle smile on the corner of his mouth, but what he said was completely opposite to it. Trouble, what it is? When I decided to make a move, the ending was already predetermined. The so-called troubles are just the scenery along the way. Talking room. Confidence shines in those brown eyes. All fear comes from lack of strength. Unfortunately, his strength is enough to make him eliminate any fear. And at this time, after the faint blue sword light appeared, all squad leaders are aware of its existence. What is this? Sui Feng stared blankly at the blue sword light. Looks like there's another slasher, Hana Retsu said with a smile. It's so troublesome, I can't be lazy for a while. Kyoraku Shunsui yawned and lost in the direction of the Penance Palace. This breath. Could it be that Captain Kuchiki is fighting the enemy? Big Guzi sensed Byakuya Kuchiki's Ryotsu and looked thoughtfully. I haven't experienced Ryotsu before. I hope it won't affect Master Aizen's plan. Tusen Kanami was guarding the 9th team, thinking silently in his heart. That direction is the Penance Palace. It seems that the enemy's target is really Rukia. Hitsugaya Toshiro lifted the knife, got up and ran towards the Penance Palace. As for the remaining 2 captains, Jashiro Yukitake retired from illness and is recuperating at home. Kuretsuchi Mayuri, fighting an unexpected enemy. Why? According to the dose, you should have fallen down. But now I can still get up and fight again and again. Seeing the orange-headed boy struggling to get up from the ground in the distance, Kuretsuchi Mayuri tilted his head in doubt with a bruised nose and a swollen face. Not far away, a girl with long brown hair fell to the ground. Although there were no wounds on the body, his eyes looked dull and lifeless. Hearing Kuretsuchi Mayuri's doubts, Kurosaki Ichigo struggled to get up from the ground again, gasped and looked at the other party, intermittently said. Bastard. Bastard, hand over the antidote. Inoue Orihime's ability is good, whether it is offensive, defensive, or defensive. But there is a weakness. She needs to control the elves herself to complete the use of corresponding abilities. Upon realizing this, Kuretsuchi Mayuri took advantage of his surprise and used a nerve-numbing toxin on Orihime. Never thought, but it led to the explosion of Kurosaki Ichigo. No matter how serious the injury was, no matter how many times he was knocked down to the ground, or even poisoned with the same nerve-paralyzing poison, he could finally get back up. At this very moment, Kurosaki Ichigo's consciousness gradually blurred. But before he knew it, a figure appeared beside him and said, "Do you want to fight? Do you want to win? Do you want to save that girl? Wave me, Ichigo." Kurosaki Ichigo opened his eyes suddenly. Clenching Zanpakuto tightly in your hand, a burst of Ryotsu burst out from your body again, and all of it was injected into Zangetsu. Crescent, Tiantian. When the blue slash came out, it actually split Kuretsuchi Mayuri's swastika gold-colored killing Jizo in two, and slashed towards Kuretsuchi Mayuri. How? How is it possible, without defense? Kuretsuchi Mayuri was also split by Crescent Moon. The upper body was chopped down obliquely from the chest to the waist, and blood immediately spilled all over the ground. Watching this scene, Kurosaki Ichigo stumbled over. In the body divided into two sections, a green potion bottle was touched, which was the antidote that Kuretsuchi Mayuri took out when he taunted him earlier. With antidote, Kurosaki Ichigo rejoined Inoue Orihime. He fed the antidote into his mouth, and seeing her gradually recovering, she staggered and fell to the ground. "Kurosaki-san." A familiar voice sounded next to his ears, and Ichigo closed his eyes in peace. It's just that the two of them didn't notice that Kuretsuchi Mayuri, who was chopped into two sections just now, disappeared from the same place and went to nowhere. It's so powerful. Looking at the faint blue sword glow that is gradually going away. A look of surprise appeared on Natsuki's face. He didn't expect that Swastika's improvement in strength was so exaggerated. Yoli can control the battle of spirits between heaven and earth. This ability is similar to Kenpachi, but not exactly the same. The similarity is that they can control spirits, but the difference is that the control of, like rain and glass, is only a passive skill. Its comprehension ability, it can be regarded as Shikai's secondary enhancement. When still as Shikai, summon the Sword Soul Phantom to assist Natsuki to fight. But during this period, the Ryotsu of the two will be superimposed and shared with each other, and they will bear the damage that Natsuki received when he undid it. This ability is somewhat monotonous. It can even be said to be a bit too simple. But for Natsuki, who uses chopping as his main attack method, it is very practical. It can be said, after entering the solution state. Then you can fight with the enemy unscrupulously, don't worry about the lack of Ryotsu, and don't have to worry about the problem of injury. Natsuki let out a breath slowly, refocusing on the battle ahead. Looking into the distance, I saw Byakuya Kuchiki kneeling on one knee, with a bloodstain on his chest. In such a state of embarrassment, this is the first time I've seen Natsuki since we met. But unlike before, the captain feather on his body has disappeared. Apparently, the moment the blade slashed at him, Byakuya reacted and at the expense of Haori, cast Kong-chan, barely dodging the attack. Pity. Take the current pose of Byakuya Kuchiki. Not to mention continuing to fight, he couldn't even stand up. I'm afraid I can't stop myself now, save Rukia from the Sin Palace, right? Thinking like this, looking at the elder brother who was kneeling on one knee, Natsuki joked. You doubted me earlier. So now, do you still think that I killed Aizen Sosuke? After this battle, Byakuya Kuchiki did understand that Aizen's killer was someone else. After all, with the great momentum of Natsuki's shot, it is impossible to kill Aizen without a sound. He looked at Natsuki with a dull look. Are you TMD sick? Comprehended on the spot, just to slash me, and make me believe that you didn't kill Aizen. This tool, Byakuya Kuchiki has some doubts about life. It took Shinigami decades to master the solution, but Natsuki has mastered it for a mere reason, which is a bit too far-fetched. Hey, feel the glazed eyes of Byakuya Kuchiki. Natsuki smiled embarrassingly, and asked himself if he was too fierce to hit the uncle like this. Seirei, the huge swordlight is still moving forward. All the buildings that stood in front of them were split in half from the middle. At the same time, The Shinigami are running around in a panic telling each other. Run, run. The front is the fourth team, it must be stopped. It's too late, hurry up and send someone to the fourth team to notify them to evacuate immediately. But at this moment, the faint blue sword light is approaching. Everyone couldn't bear to turn their heads away, not daring to look at the next picture. And at this moment, don't dare to be rampant. But I saw a figure galloping towards this place. This figure is the captain of Shinigami 1st Division, Yamamoto Motonyanagi Shigekuni. At the same time, known as the strongest Shinigami in the millennium. He stared at the dark blue sword light with an angry expression on his face. The crutch in his hand disappeared without knowing when, and turned into a simple long knife, simple but elegant. It's getting closer, the two are getting closer. I saw the blue saber light in front of me chopping towards him. Ever since, Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni draws his sword out. Staring fixedly at this dark blue sword light, the air mechanism is locked. And at this moment, the fleeing Shinigami. Suddenly, he found a figure standing in front of the huge blade light. Hey, get out of the way. Someone didn't see it clearly, and was still subconsciously shouting loudly, reminding the other party to get out of the way. The sharp-eyed companions found out. The person who came here turned out to be the captain of the strongest Shinigami in the millennium. Shut up. Didn't you see? That's Captain Yamamoto. Ah, no way. I just wanted to remind him to get out of the way, and I didn't pay attention to who it was. In the whispers between the two, this huge swordlight finally approached Yamamoto Genryuzai Shigekuni. Watching from a distance before, you can already feel the icy aura emanating from the swordlight. But when I personally experience it positively, only then did I discover how huge the Ryotsu contained in this blade light is. But Yamamoto Genyanagi Shigekuni just waved the long knife in his hand and slashed forward. Even if it's a huge Ryotsu, I can't let you destroy Seirei. The moment the sound falls, a sword full of scorching breath slashed out. Swinging the knife too fast, even left behind a phantom like a sea of flames, slashing towards the blue knife light. Ding! The moment when the slash and the sword light collide. The crisp sound of the clanging of iron tools resounded in the ears of everyone present. Captain, can you stop it? What are you talking about? It must be possible, that is the strongest Shinigami. Shinigami watching this scene, they couldn't help but start talking in whispers and unify their views. Gotei 13th Division, Team Captain Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni will definitely be able to block this sword glow. While things develop, as many Shinigami guessed. At the moment when the slash and the sword light were in a stalemate, Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni gripped the long sword tightly in his hand, and slashed forward with all his strength. Caw caw caw, the broken sound rang in everyone's ears. Immediately, under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the faint blue blade was instantly covered with cracks and shattered. Admirably, the strongest Shinigami in the millennium. It turned out that he forcibly cut off the blade light just by relying on his own tactics. And at this moment, not too bad. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni rolled his eyes at everyone. He listened to the advice just now, nodded in acquiescence. Immediately, looking towards the direction of the sword attack. Over there is the direction of the Palace of Repentance, which means that the enemy is in the Palace of Repentance. Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigekuni couldn't help but let out a cold snort. Murderous intent flickered in his eyes, he tapped his feet lightly, bang. In an instant, the figure disappeared from the original place. Only a few Shinigami players were left, looking at where he stood with admiring expressions on their faces. As expected of your excellency, Captain. That's right, it actually cut off that sword glow with just one blow. Penance Palace Natsuki glanced at Byakuya who was kneeling on one knee. Ignore it and go directly to the Penance Palace where Rukia is held. However, watch Natsuki ignore his own existence. Byakuya Kuchiki disregarded the pain in front of him, and with one hand was a Bakudo who chanted with abandon. Bakudo's 61-6 stick light prison. Moment. I didn't expect Byakuya to have more energy. Natsuki was accidentally hit by this sudden Bakudo. But he was not in a hurry, turned around and looked at Byakuya Kuchiki who was struggling to stand up, and asked calmly. Is that all you want to stop me from saving Rukia? The moment the sound fell, Byakuya Kuchiki was taken aback for a moment, before replying after a moment. Rukia violated the rules of the Soul Society. Since he violated the rules, he will have to pay the price. This moment, the lingering voice echoed in my ears. Hearing this, Natsuki walked up to him step by step and asked. You're Rukia's big brother. The closest relationship with her in Soul Society is you. When she was in trouble, not only did you not help, but you prevented others from helping. Do you really deserve what she calls you? Byakuya was silent. Natsuki continued to speak his mind. Perhaps you have some difficulties, and it may even be more important than Rukia's life and death, but have you really thought about it? Just let my sister be executed like this, and you won't feel sad in the future. This sentence hits the heart directly. Make Byakuya Kuchiki fall into silence. If you allow Rukia to be executed, will you regret it in the future? Rukia is Hima's younger sister. I promised Feijen to take good care of Rukia. But back then, in order to marry Feijen, he swore in front of his parents' grave that he would not do anything against the rules again. Now these two things come together. No matter which side he chooses, he has broken his promise. What should I do? Feijen, however, just when Byakuya was confused. A scorching breath swept over, as if summer is coming at this moment. Ignorant little thief, Hugh's nonsense. Moment. Both Natsuki and Byakuya Kuchiki are confused. This hot breath. No way, old man Yamamoto ended up in person. Boom. The violent and fiery breath of the soul. In an instant, they came galloping from a distance, pressing down on Natsuki forcefully. This moment, he seemed to see the king of fire. Walking towards here slowly, the speed is not fast, but it is breathtaking. Certainly, the speed of coming is actually not slow. But the reason why it seems to be quite slow is because the speed is too fast, leaving an afterimage in place, giving people the illusion of. Looks like we've caught up. The figure of a bald old man appeared, in front of his eyes. Gotei 13th Division, Team Captain Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigakuni, descended here. Undoubtedly leaking momentum, it seems that there is a flame burning beside me out of thin air. This scene made Natsuki raise his eyebrows slightly. Can the environment be affected without liberation? It seems that old man Yamamoto is called the strongest Shinigami in the millennium, and he is feared by Aizen Sosuke, not for nothing. This moment, he sensed the gap between himself and old man Yamamoto. Not only the difference in momentum, but also the difference in Ryotsu. When Natsuki solved the swastika earlier, he and Yuli Ryotsu were superimposed on each other. It was only comparable to the old man Yamamoto at this time. You know, the current Yamamoto old man has not liberated Zanpakuto, there is no Ryotsu increase. Although prepared. But Natsuki is still shocked by its strength. But this is the accumulation of thousands of years of Yamamoto Genryusai. As for myself, I have only practiced for a few months. As long as I give some time, it is difficult to catch up with old man Yamamoto. Think of this, Natsuki grinned excitedly. Old man Yamamoto, don't die before I catch up with you. At the same time Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigakuni is also observing Natsuki. Young, too young, compared with his thousands of years of life, the traveler in front of him is too young. Can't help but he thought of the intelligence that the covert mobile team had detected. Natsuki, 16 years old, has shown spiritual talent since Rukia went to the world for a resident mission. From Rukia to the living station mission. Up to now, it's only been 3 months since I've done my best, that is to say, I've reached this level of practice in 3 months. Genius. That was the first word that came to his mind. Even in his thousands of years of life, the only one who can quickly increase his strength to such a level is Makoto. Such a genius chose to invade the Soul Society. And the enemy of the Soul Society is his enemy. Thinking of this, Yamamoto Genryusai Shigakuni slowly raised his right hand. But at this moment, suddenly there was another voice behind him. Shan Yi. I'm just a traveler, I don't bother you to do it yourself. Why don't you rest and leave it to me? A sudden sound was heard. Natsuki looked behind the old man Yamamoto, but saw a figure in a pink feathered jacket embroidered with patterns approaching at some point. Kyoraku Shunsui? At the same time, in the Millennium Blood War chapter. After Yamamoto Motoyanagi Shigakuni died in battle, the second captain elected by Seirei. Look at the person, information popped into Natsuki's mind instantly. This made him feel a little bad, it was a little bit reluctant to face the old man Yamamoto alone, and now there are more Kyoraku Shunsui, wouldn't it be important to be here? However, right now, Kyoraku Shunsui looked at Natsuki, inadvertently, and said quietly. Sean Yi. You have to make up your mind quickly, otherwise Captain Hitsugaya will rush over, and he will compete with me. Natsuki frowned. There was no hostility in Kyoraku Shunsui's gaze. It can even be said that there is an untraceable kindness. Although he didn't know why he showed kindness to himself, the phrase, Captain Hitsugaya rushed over, made Natsuki understand his situation again. The two captains before and after are not talking here. Next, there was another captain of the 10th Division rushing here. If he continues to stay here, he is afraid that if Rukia cannot be rescued, he will die here too. Thinking like this, involuntarily looking past the crowd, looking at the Repentance Palace more than 10 meters away, he sighed softly in his heart. It's a pity, it seems that the idea of robbing the prison today may be a complete failure. While sighing, Natsuki suddenly coughed lightly. At the moment when the two people on the opposite side were attracted by him, they suddenly opened their mouths and said, "It's too arrogant for you to discuss who will deal with me in front of me. If that's the case, why don't you let me make the first move?" Sound falls. Natsuki's eyes became firm, and Ryotsu broke out again. "Little ghost, you are too arrogant." Looking at Natsuki's serious appearance that doesn't seem to be fake, the old man Yamamoto narrowed his eyes slightly. "Then give me a try." Natsuki responded loudly to old man Yamamoto. The Ryotsu on his body suddenly rose sharply, and then in the vigilant eyes of the two of them, a blade glow instantly cut out. Suddenly, old man Yamamoto's expression changed drastically. "I saw the target cut off by that knife light. It turned out to be Byakuya Kuchiki, who lost his fighting power and was lying on the gun. Uncle, help me attract another wave of firepower." Looking at Byakuya Kuchiki with a sluggish face, Natsuki thought in his heart, then Shunpo ran away without hesitation. This moment, Shunpo learned from Yoruichi. Natsuki performed it so exquisitely that even Yoruichi would feel like, "I have the same style as I did back then." What? Stay and fight old man Yamamoto. Although Natsuki is here to rob the prison, he is not an idiot, even an old man Yamamoto can't beat him. Not to mention Kyoraku Shunsui standing by. And, it's impossible for Tianwi, the Ganbin team that is still coming here. Knowing that continuing to fight will not lead to good results, why did he stay foolishly? Is it because the food outside is not good, or is freedom not good? At the same time, Yamamoto old man Shunpo appeared in front of Byakuya. Hit with a fist, the attacking sword glow instantly shattered, but Natsuki's figure has long since disappeared. Kyoraku Shunsui came immediately. Looking at Master Shan's angry face, he kindly reminded. "Shan Yi. The two of us seem to have been tricked. You bastard, you can play tricks on me like this, it's unforgivable." Yamamoto Genryusai Shigekuni looks gloomy. "Never would I have imagined that when I was old, I would be teased like this by a child. The most important thing is, with such a simple slap in the face, I was actually fooled. I have a wounded person here. Who will lift the pillar? It will crush two people. Where are the people from the 4th Division? Urgent treatment is needed here." Seirei, a group of Shinigami carried out rescue work among the rubble. The figure of Natsuki is also mixed in it, rescued several Shinigami from the ruins from time to time, and received a lot of thanks. Half an hour ago he just left from the Penance Palace. Then they ran into a team of Shinigami team for emergency support. When the team saw Natsuki walking alone, they thought it was other members of the scattered team and invited them to help with the rescue. Exactly, he wanted to inquire about Ichigo et al. So he sneaked into the rescue team and searched for information while rescuing. Very lucky, everyone's luck is good this time. Although scattered as in the plot, no news of their capture was heard. Soon, the sky gradually became brighter. There was only some finishing work left for the rescue, and the Shinigami, who had been exhausted all night, finally came to shift time. And at this moment, the Shinigami who lead the rescue. This will walk up to Natsuki, bow slightly and thank. "Dong Mu-san, thanks to your help. If it doesn't bother you, how about going back to the 11th team to rest after going to our team for breakfast?" At this time, Natsuki wears sawgrass armband. Made up a name and claimed to be a member of the 11th team. Everyone is wearing a deadly costume, plus no one knows what Natsuki looks like. So the team really thought that Natsuki was a member of the 11th team. Although I am a little curious about when such an alternative appeared among the lunatics of the 11th team, but the gratitude is true. Facing the invitation, Natsuki immediately agreed. No trouble. This saves me time, I should be the one to thank you. He was also busy all night, so naturally he would not refuse a free breakfast, so he happily followed a few people to eat. Only. Looking at the team badges of several people, Natsuki always felt that he looked a little familiar. What the hell? I'll just have a meal and be directly attacked by the enemy's base camp. 5th Team Gate. Looking at the number on the door, Natsuki was stunned. He forgot that the rescue team in the 13th Division of Gote is the 5th Division controlled by Aizen. Working with myself for half a day, actually working with Aizen's soldiers all the time. Seeing this, the members of the 5th Squad who were rescued together asked curiously, Fuyuki-san, are you feeling unwell? I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. Natsuki twitched the corner of his mouth and forced a smile. The 5th Division member shook his head puzzled. But he didn't pay too much attention to it. He turned around and took Natsuki and walked towards the cafeteria of the 5th team. Along the way, the bad guy looked at Natsuki curiously. I can't figure out that Natsuki's temperament is actually a member of the 1st team. It feels like a husky mixed with wolves. It looks incongruous at first glance. But Natsuki has excellent mental quality. Even if he was sized up and down all the way, he didn't panic at all. I have the badge of the 11th Squad on my shoulder, and now I am a member of the 11th Squad, you can come and see it. Accompanied by looking all the way, the two finally came to the cafeteria of the 5th Division. Under the curious eyes of Defan Shinigami, Natsuki started his journey of making rice in the 5th team. However, I just had a few mouthfuls of breakfast. But he heard someone chatting next to him, and the content made Natsuki's eyes light up slightly. I'm so sleepy, I haven't slept all night. Don't mention it, it's like I didn't go to the rescue yesterday. You said, Captain Aizen died, and Vice Captain Hinamori was also locked up. After one night, why is our 5th Division so miserable? Not just Captain Aizen. Captain Kuchiki and Captain Ni also lost, it feels so dangerous. I heard that Captain Zaraki of the 11th team also lost to Luca, so now the 4 captains have lost. The content of the conversation was mixed. But Natsuki still sifts out a useful message. Kuretsuchi Mayuri of the 12th Squad seems to be defeated by someone in his team, but in his impression, only Ichigo and Uryu have this kind of strength. This made him a little curious, of these two, who beat Kuretsuchi Mayuri's pervert. However, just at this time, but I heard a sound coming from the loudspeaker in the corner of the cafeteria. Members of the 3rd team, after hearing the broadcast, please quickly go to Dongziman for support. The horn sounded 3 times in a row. Meanwhile, at the first sound of the horn, the members of Division 5 who brought Natsuki to the cafeteria to have a meal earlier got up immediately, ready to run outside. See, Natsuki reached out and grabbed it, and asked, what happened? Why are you running outside? Suddenly he was grabbed by the arm. He didn't care, he just smiled wryly. I'm afraid that another team has encountered a travel accident this time, so they asked us for help. As for why they ran out, I am the member of the 3rd team. Sound falls. Natsuki looked over with a sympathetic look. It's been a busy night of rescue, and I have to go to work before I finish breakfast. Wait. Natsuki's eyes suddenly lit up. Travel disaster attack, isn't this referring to my own group of people? Now the 5th Squad is going to support by following the past, wouldn't it be possible to merge with Ichigo and the others at? Thinking up to this point, Natsuki approached the member of the 5th Division, and asked tentatively. I haven't seen a travel accident yet, why don't I go with you, just in time to see each other? Toki, is what you said true? It would be really nice if you would help. Before he finished speaking, his hands were tightly held, and when he looked up, he saw the member of the 5th Division looking at him eagerly. Listening to these words, Natsuki suddenly became a little confused. I am a travel accident. Why did I hear the feeling of being ordered in danger from your mouth? Seireiti Soul Society Political and Military Headquarters. Because of its peculiarity, only Shinigami and very few nobles can live here. The places where the nobles live are collectively called Noble Street, and there is a door in the east of which is called Dongzi Gate, where the nobles come in and out every day. Boom. A loud noise suddenly exploded. Dongziman, which has a history of thousands of years, has directly become history under one strike. Its original author, a boy holding a huge kitchen knife-shaped zanpakuto in one hand. But his short orange hair lost its brilliance at this time. Looking at the Shinigami around him, his voice was weak, but he said firmly, "Sorry. I don't have time to continue entangled with you." Talking room. Kurosaki Ichigo instinctively turned to Inoue Orihime. Although the neurotoxin in her body has been removed, her mental state is still somewhat insufficient. And I fought that pervert last night. Although the wound was healed by Orihime, the physical and spiritual power did not recover. Now the state is seriously declining, and if I continue to consume, I am afraid that I will not be able to meet Natsuki and others at. Simply use the crescent moon. Try these Shinigami to let go, and take Orihime away by yourself. Obviously, this effect is not bad. The Shinigami gathered around looked at the broken Dongziman. They all looked at each other, not daring to approach easily. After all, everyone is not a fool. The strength of this brigade. Obviously much stronger than normal Shinigami. If they shot easily, they might just follow the path of those previous companions. Thinking this way, someone looked behind the orange-headed boy. Over there, the fellow Shinigami who had already been lying on the ground. Although none of them suffered fatal injuries, a severe beating was still indispensable. Sudden. One of the Shinigami stood up. Although his footsteps trembled slightly, he still encouraged everyone with his voice. He doesn't have much strength, and the other one is also injured. Don't be afraid, everyone, go up and take him down. Hear the words, all the Shinigami looked at each other again. Everyone may have been inspired by these words, and began to look at Kurosaki Ichigo in full swing. See, Kurosaki Ichigo sighed softly, although he didn't want to hurt too many people, he didn't want to be trapped any longer, so he raised his hand again and said coldly. Since you refuse to back down, be careful, the deputy is dead. The moment the sound fell, the hearts of the Shinigami who surrounded them jumped. Didn't this young man never kill? Why did he suddenly mention the word, death? To know, the reason why they never retreated. He even sent people to surround him continuously, just because he knew that this young man would not kill him, so he felt at ease to die. But did not expect, this young man suddenly mentioned the word, death. Could it be that he is planning to kill him? However, before they could react, suddenly, Kurosaki Ichigo Ryotsu converged towards the Zangetsu in his hand, and even, this huge Ryotsu made all the Shinigami present look changed. Notice this change. Once Shinigami couldn't hold back, he just came to paddle, he didn't really want to fight. Don't shoot. Aren't you harmless? Why did you kill us all of a sudden? Sound falls, the surrounding Shinigami glared away. Unexpectedly, such a coward got mixed into my team. However, Kurosaki Ichigo's expression was calm. Yesterday's battle made him realize that the invasion of Soul Society by himself and others is not just a game. If he is not careful, people will really die. So, Ichigo held up Zangetsu and said coldly, "You are going to attack me, can't I fight back?" Everyone stared blankly. At this moment, Ichigo waved Zangetsu indifferently, and said in a high voice, "Cut it all off, Crescent, Tien Chong." Suddenly, the huge Ryotsu turns into a slash and flies away. Watching this scene, all Shinigami, hostile or not, are dumbfounded. Get out of the way. Get out of my way. Damn it. This travel accident is really a murderer, get out of the way. Scared, screamed, roared. The Shinigami have seen the power of the crescent sky, they dare not contend with it, and subconsciously run around. But at their speed, how can it compare to Ichigo's crescent moon? Exuding a huge Ryotsu slash, it quickly flew towards the direction of the Shinigami, extremely fast and fleeting. This moment, Yuya Tianchong finally showed his power. Ling Lai's sharp edges converged, and there was no one to beat him, and he flew straight into the crowd. Instantly, everything in the way is cut. Houses, buildings, land, and even dead Shendu all became the targets of the slash, and the blood immediately spilled on the ground. Hand, my arm. It's been cut, I've been cut, who will save me? The lucky Shinigami looked at his severed limb in horror, screaming incessantly. And the unlucky ones, looking at his body that was divided into two, he fell into collapse in despair. Looking at this scene, even though he was mentally prepared, Kurosaki Ichigo still had a flash of unbearable eyes and murmured, "Feel sorry. I've tried to be as lenient as possible. Sound falls, the body staggered and almost fell to the ground. Fortunately, Inoue Orihime behind grabbed Kurosaki Ichigo just in time before he falls to the ground. But the fact of his lack of physical strength is revealed at this moment to the fullest. At the same time, the support team of the 5th Division came to Dongziman. But he didn't want to take the scene just now into his eyes. The blood spilled all over the ground immediately made everyone's eyes stagnate. This is the opponent we need to face? The leader of the team, that is, the member of the 5th Division who invited Natsuki to have breakfast, looked at the tragedy with dull eyes. The whole person is in love. Feel sorry. Looking at the bloody picture I made. Even though Kurosaki Ichigo was prepared, he still couldn't bear it. After all, no matter how powerful he is, it still cannot change the fact that he is only 15 years old. And at this moment, although Orihime was also shocked by the bloody picture, but he noticed Ichigo's abnormality at the first time, and asked with concern. Kurosaki-san. Are you alright? What are you worried about? I'll take you to meet everyone later. But Ichigo didn't want Orihime to worry. Try to imitate the usual tone of voice. At the same time, he looked at the group of Shinigami who had just arrived. Perhaps because of the first experience, I didn't have the idea of being merciful at the beginning. His eyes gradually became firmer. Those who want to kill, people will always kill them. These Shinigami want to kill themselves. Why can't I fight back? And at this moment, the support team from Division 5. Seeing the bloody scene, everyone was stunned. Such a monster, can we defeat it? How can Shu? The captain is dead, and the vice captain has also been imprisoned. Is it our turn now? Bewildered, completely confused. Although the 5th Division is the support team of Seirei. But there are not many people who can make a move. Seeing that Ichigo's slashing with a sword caused such a bloody scene, everyone was dumbfounded. However, the group leader narrowed his eyes and looked at Ichigo. Being able to be the team leader naturally has strengths, and his perception is extremely sensitive. Almost subconsciously, he unleashes his perception and observes Ryotsu inside Ichigo. However, the results he observed filled his eyes with excitement for an instant, and he loudly encouraged. Everyone, don't be afraid. This trip is already at the end of its strength. Look at his body, he doesn't have much strength anymore. Sound falls. Team 5 looked at Kurosaki Ichigo together. This look, it was indeed found that the body of the traveler was trembling. Immediately, the Shinigami who were still full of fear of Kurosaki Ichigo felt that they were doing well again, and one of them shouted. This travel accident is about to die. Everyone, don't be afraid to go up together and kill him. The man's voice fell. The Shinigami subconsciously exchanged glances to confirm each other's thoughts, and then looked at Kurosaki Ichigo. Although not explicitly stated, but when the first Shinigami burst from the line, the rest of the Shinigami present seemed to have received an order, and unanimously launched a siege. Come on. Kill the travel disaster and avenge everyone. Everyone rush. Kill these 2 travel disasters, and take revenge for the dead companions. This moment, Kurosaki Ichigo has become a public enemy. But he just looked at the Shinigami indifferently, raised his Zanpakuto, pointed forward, and said indifferently. What a mess. I don't have time to play games with you, let's fight to the death. Saying these words, the attacking Shinigami has a sense of foreboding. But the next moment, when they saw Ryotsu erupting from Kurosaki Ichigo again, the group of Shinigami were dumbfounded. What the hell? Isn't it that there is no strength, and the body is crumbling? Why did you burst out such a huge Ryotsu again? Could it be that you were pretending before? Subconsciously, everyone looked towards the group leader. Meeting his gaze, the team leader twitched his mouth, suspiciously saying. This. According to perception, the Ryotsu in his body is really not much, it should be only a little more than 10% of his own. Asari Ryotsu. Everyone turned to look at Kurosaki Ichigo again. The co-author Ryotsu is exaggerating like this. If it was in its heyday, how terrifying would it be? And at this moment, Kurosaki Ichigo had a cold expression on his face. Silently gather the last Ryotsu in the body towards the Zangetsu in the hand. This knife, it will be his last blow. If the enemy in front of you cannot be dealt with, that can only be captured by the Shinigami who keep besieging. So, Kurosaki Ichigo stared slightly. You must not keep your hand, and you must not make mistakes. With this thought in mind, Kurosaki Ichigo will imbue the last Ryotsu's Zangetsu, swing it towards the enemy, and said coldly. Crescent, Sky Chong. This moment. History seems to repeat itself. The desperation faced by the last wave of Shinigami strikes again. This slash that exudes a huge Ryotsu quickly slashes forward. Even, with the crescent moon cut out by Ryotsu at the end. Even more powerful than the previous crescent Sky Chong, when the azure blue slash hit, it was dyed with a layer of pitch black at some point. Everything along the way. Nothing can stop the advance of this crescent sky. That razor-sharp aura easily destroyed all resistance. This moment, watching the crescent sky rushing. All Shinigami's faces are extremely ugly. He wanted to dodge, but it was too late. He could only watch Yu Yaishin rush towards his house and wait for the newcomer. Don't Don't kill me, I don't want to die yet. There is Shinigami's desperate cry, and naturally there is also the god of death with a firm face. Even if death comes, there is never a trace of regret. However, but also at this moment, a white figure gallops over. Its speed was even a few minutes faster than Yuya Tianchong, suddenly blocked in front of everyone, and immediately unsheathed the saber. Sit on the frosty sky, Hirinmaru. The moment the sound fell. Suddenly, a smear of frost appeared on the entire field, and everything it touched was frozen by it. Even machines, incoming crescent sky rush. After only persisting for a moment, it was also covered in frost and fell from the sky. Watching the sudden reversal ending. Those present, whether it was the members of the 5th Division, or Kurosaki Ichigo and Orihime, were all dumbfounded. Crunch, crunch, frost is not violent, and even a little silent. But in an instant, it covered everything around, and attacked Kurosaki Ichigo and Inoue Orihime. This scene, say no to Kurosaki Ichigo and Inoue Orihime. Even the rescued Shinigami looked at the people in a daze, especially the Captain Haori, which attracted people's attention. Captain Hitsugaya. You are the captain of the 10th squad, the captain of Hitsugaya. Looking at the Captain Haori who came here, in addition to that standard silver hair, someone recognized his identity and exclaimed. At the same time, Hitsugaya Toshiro looked at the crowd and ordered. The next battle is not for you to participate in, go and treat the wounded. Wen Yan. All the Shinigami breathed a sigh of relief. They are afraid of being ordered to continue besieging that brigade. Fortunately, now assigned to treat the wounded. Although this kind of work is a bit tiring, at least it is not dangerous. Yes, Captain Hitsugaya. All the Shinigami bowed slightly to Hitsugaya, and then went to the side to treat the injured. At the same time Ichigo and Orihime's eyes went dark. Was the frost that hit, and it began to expand bit by bit. In just a few breaths, it turned into countless ice currents, sweeping towards the two of them. Kurosaki-san. Inoue Orihime yelled worriedly. Don't worry. There is definitely a way to crack it. Kurosaki Ichigo reassured, but there was unavoidable panic in his eyes. Ryotsu is exhausted. The remaining physical strength is obviously not enough to defeat the enemy in front of him. Zangetsu, Uncle Zangetsu, help me, without any choice. Ichigo could only keep calling Zangetsu's name in his heart. Hope to defeat the enemy with the power of Zagetsu just like yesterday. Pity, no matter how much my heart calls. But until the oncoming ice climbed up his legs, Shin-Ki didn't reply. Disappointment and despair quietly occupied Kurosaki Ichigo's heart. Disappointed that he can only go so far, but desperate that he didn't send Inoue Orihime out, causing her to die with him. It seems that I can't help you this time, really. When the ice was about to cover his head, Ichigo thought. But the next moment, a joking voice suddenly sounded in front of him. Yo, Ichigo, good morning, although I want to say hello like this, but with your current appearance, I'm afraid you can't respond. Hear the voice. Kurosaki Ichigo felt very familiar. Even, I feel that this scene is very familiar, just like Natsuki saved himself in the first place. Shashu? Kurosaki Ichigo opened his eyes suddenly. But he saw a smiling figure standing in front of him. Natsu. Natsuki. Seeing this smiling figure, Kurosaki Ichigo was stunned. At the same time, Natsuki left and right. With each hand, he touched the ice that covered Ichigo and Orihime. In an instant, the absorption skill is activated, and the spiritual power in the ice is continuously absorbed, transformed into spiritual power for storage. Only, the voice from Yuli in my heart, however, Natsuki's expression suddenly became slightly stiff. But it quickly returned to its original state, helping the two break the ice on their bodies, and conveying the spiritual power they had just absorbed. Ichigo, Orihime, I haven't seen you all night, aren't you excited to see me again? Maybe it was seeing two companions. Natsuki's personality became much more active, and he greeted the two of them with a smile. Mr. Natsuki? Why are you here? You're not hurt? Orihime was as innocent as ever, and the first reaction after getting out of trouble was to care for others. It's nice to meet again though. But Natsuki, pay attention to the situation, the one behind seems very unhappy. Although I don't know why the power is recovering. But Kurosaki Ichigo still reminded Natsuki to look at the silver-haired kid behind killing the white Haori. That one. He is the captain of the Juban, Hitsugaya Toshiro. Natsuki looked sideways, and saw that Toshiro's face was a bit ugly, and he obviously recognized himself. But Natsuki didn't mind. Soul Society is not stupid, and sooner or later it will be exposed. Exposure of identity now is nothing more than one day earlier, one day later. Looking at Natsuki laughing and chatting, Hitsugaya Toshiro suddenly felt his head buzzing. Isn't this the accompanying team doctor next to Zaraki Kenpachi yesterday? Why did he chat so happily with Luke? Suddenly, he remembered the information that the covert maneuver had just sent. The traveler and his party who invaded Seirei, their purpose is to rescue Rukia, who is about to be executed. Think again of Rukia's charges. Secretly having an affair with humans, teaching the power of Shinigami to humans. Especially the second charge. It has been stated that Rukia transmits the power of Shinigami to humans. That is to say, the guy who was said to be the accompanying team doctor yesterday is actually Natsuki, the leader of the group who invaded Seirei. Thinking of myself, yesterday I even nodded to Natsuki. Suddenly, Hitsugaya Toshiro's face was dark, and a few words popped out between his teeth, and said coldly. You bastard lied to me. Get ready to die, bird icicles. Sound falls. Toshiro waved his hand violently Hirenmaru. In an instant, the violent ice turned into ice bullets, attacking Natsuki like flocks of birds. However, Natsuki with his back turned, as if he didn't notice, he was still chatting with Ichigo Orihime. But Ichigo, who was facing Toshiro, saw this scene clearly, and quickly reminded. Natsuki, watch your back. But after the voice fell, he saw Natsuki chuckle suddenly. Immediately, he turned around and greeted Hitsugaya Toshiro. I'm sorry Captain Hitsugaya, I was busy chatting with good friends and forgot to say hello to you. After all, he rolled his eyes and hit himself with an ice bullet, chuckled lightly and said. Since Captain Hitsugaya is so enthusiastic, I can't turn a blind eye, right? These words, to Toshiro a little puzzled. But what happened next moment made his eyes widen. Impossible. I saw. Natsuki drew his sword out of its sheath, a smear of frost covered the blade, and then he slashed forward with his backhand. Bird icicles. Bird icicles. Ichigo and Orihime didn't react much. But Hitsugaya Toshiro, who is the master of the moves, was taken aback and looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. I saw. With Natsuki's backhand slash. In an instant, the spirit particles in the air froze into ice bombs, and turned into countless flocks of birds, striking at the incoming flock of birds going away. This moment, it's like birds belonging to different groups are fighting. Of course, if there is any difference, the number of bird icicles cut by Natsuki is even more exaggerated than the former. Impossible. Hitsugaya Toshiro watched this scene blankly. At this moment, his cognition was thrown into the ground and crushed over and over again. Is it possible, just like decades ago, has anyone awakened Hirenmaru's Zanpakuto again? At the same time, the leader of Division 5 who was ordered to treat the wounded. Looking at Natsuki who appeared in front of Ichigo and Orihime, his eyes were also a little dull. This Fuyuki of the 11th team turned out to be a travel disaster. Really? The two of them did the rescue work together yesterday. What the hell is it that you come here to rescue us without causing damage? But if it's true, the group leader silently swallowed a mouthful of saliva. In the morning, he even invited Lu Hua to his family for breakfast. The point is that Natsuki also agreed, no matter how you think about it, this feels outrageous, okay. Interesting. Is this the power of Hirenmaru? Natsuki stood there and looked at the Zanpakuto in his hand. Especially looking at the layer of frost covering the body of the knife, his face is full of curiosity. Previously, when he absorbed the spiritual power from the ice, Xiaoli in the inner world suddenly gave him a surprise. Indicates that the passive of Natsuki Zanpakuto's solution is triggered, successfully manipulating Hiranmaru's psychic power. Coincidentally, Natsuki's extraction comes with an analysis function. So, with the two abilities connected in series, Xiaoli has mastered the frequency of the spirit, and can perfectly use Hiranmaru's ability. In theory, ability mastered by the master of Hiranmaru. As long as there is enough Ryotsu, Xiaoli can use it by adjusting the frequency of the corresponding Ryotsu. This is also Natsuki the reason why you can use the bird icicles. At the same time, since Yuri can use the power of Hiranmaru. This also means that other Zanpakuto powers may be used in the future. Think of this, Natsuki couldn't help but sigh in his heart, I am also a cheater. And at this time, Toshiro finally recovered from his daze. Looking at Natsuki, he looked extremely determined, and said seriously. I don't believe that you can really use Hiranmaru's power. Even if you can use it, there must be corresponding restrictions. The voice fell, he pointed Hiranmaru in his hand at Natsuki. I want to show you the true history of Hiranmaru. Oh? Hiranmaru's real power. This makes me a little curious. Natsuki rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Actually, compared to Hitsugaya Toshiro, who is the real master of Hiranmaru. Although Natsuki can also use Hiranmaru's power, he is undoubtedly relatively unfamiliar with the use of abilities. If there is an in-person demonstration by Toshiro, come to think of it, I should be able to master Hiranmaru's ability as soon as possible, right? However, while Natsuki was thinking, Hitsugaya Toshiro is attacking again. Bird icicles. Perhaps in order to prove himself, he used the bird icicles again. But this time, both the quantity and the quality of the ice bombs are far more than before. Immediately, dense ice bombs blasted towards Natsuki in the form of covering all sides. At the same time, Natsuki still uses Hiranmaru's power. Hold the knife backwards, tap the tip of the knife lightly on the ground, and suddenly, the frost will pass from the tip of the knife to the ground, and then a huge ice shield will be formed. Keep Natsuki, Ichigo, Orihime behind, immediately. Boom. 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 The dense bombardment sounds formed on the surface of the ice shield, but did not cause any damage to it. A moment later, all the ice bombs produced by the bird icicles have been bombed. Natsuki also vibrated vigorously, and the ice shield turned into ice chips and scattered all over the ground. Far away, Toshiro narrowed his eyes slightly. He was somewhat unexpected. Although the ice shield is simple, its defense is not weak. Even the icicles of birds can be easily blocked, which makes him more curious, how Natsuki has the ability to control the ice. But before that, he also needs to let Natsuki know who has the real Hiranmaru. Ice Dragon Spinning Tail. Toshiro's Ryotsu condensed from Hiranmaru. Immediately, with a light tap, one appeared in front of Natsuki and the other three, and a ring slashed at the three of them. Pause time. Layers of ice appeared in the area where Hiranmaru's blade cut. The ice kept sweeping towards the three of them, and there was an impulse to seal the three of them in the ice. But this time, however, Natsuki tapped the layers of ice with a knife in one hand, and smiled at the corner of his mouth. Your ability is good, but the strength doesn't seem to be high. Sound falls. This layer of ice, from the position of the tip of the knife in Natsuki's hand. It began to collapse little by little, and after just a few breaths, this cold water field completely turned into a piece of water and fell to the ground. What happened? Toshiro's eyes trembled, his own attack was completely defeated by a single touch. And looking at Toshiro's expression, Natsuki was not in a hurry, but explained in a kindly way. Because of Hiranmaru's ice-controlling properties, the Ryotsu in your body is strong. I suppose, and to control this Ryotsu, you have trained hard. While talking, Natsuki bent down and picked up a piece of ice on the ground. Hold it with your index finger and thumb, put it in front of your eyes and observe carefully, and comment. Sure enough, I chose to reduce the strength of the ice cube for better control, so I can easily find the weak point, and it will fall apart as soon as I touch it. At the same time, Natsuki smiled slightly. But at this moment, this smile is so cold in Toshiro's eyes. And you, after being controlled by your weakness, this battle can already be declared over in advance. The voice fell, Toshiro's pupils shrank suddenly, and his expression was extremely ugly. No. Impossible. This is a weakness that only you know. Why, you, a traveler, know it all. Just ask. An enemy whom he has only met twice. What kind of experience is it to suddenly tell your weakness directly in front of you? Seirei Noble Street, Dongziman Hitsugaya. Toshiro's face is very ugly. After all, if anyone's weakness is exposed in front of everyone, it will inevitably be this kind of reaction. Traveling. How do you know? At this moment, Toshiro couldn't help asking. But in his mind, but I can't help but see Natsuki holding a piece of ice with his index finger and thumb just now, and observing carefully. Could it be, with such a small gesture? If this is the case, the person in front of him is too terrifying. And at this moment, hearing Toshiro's inquiry, Chichi-san, Natsuki didn't hold back at all, and explained directly. My ability is special, and my sensitivity to spirit suns is relatively high. It's not difficult to see. But the two were still fighting. It seems that I am sorry for the identities of the two of them if they only chat without fighting. Then, Ice Dragon spinning tail. Natsuki directly in front of Toshiro. Raise your Zanpakuto, and use the opponent's ability without fear. Ryotsu condensed from Yuli in an instant. Feeling the chill from the blade in his hand, Natsuki Shunpo used it, and simply slashed forward. Rustle. Swing the knife too fast and leave afterimages. But what attracted the most attention was the half-moon-shaped frost slash that appeared in midair. Puff. Slash across the body, blood spurts. Hitsugaya Toshiro looked down in disbelief, but seeing the deadly domineering outfit was easily scratched, and the knife marks from the heart to the waist emerged. The wound, blood droplets kept gushing out, but turned into blood droplets under the interference of the ice. I'm injured, and still hurt by Hiranmaru's power. Dazed, Toshiro looked at the wound blankly. As the master of Hiranmaru, he is naturally aware of Hiranmaru's spiritual energy. However, Natsuki could clearly sense Hiranmaru's aura during the slash attack just now. Now he has to admit, Natsuki also has the power of Hiranmaru. At that moment just now, he had clearly dodged Natsuki's attack, but the half-moon-shaped ice slash that appeared out of nowhere seriously injured him with one blow. This is for the captain-class Shinigami. Obviously a little ridiculous, but it really happened. Hateful. Absolutely, I can't spare you. Feeling the pain in the body at this moment, Toshiro was angry and hurt by his own Zanpakuto's ability. This feeling of being NT-red is not good. Under anger, he just wants to kill the little thief who stole Hiranmaru's power. At this moment, the Ryotsu on his body began to soar, and the icy and biting breath spread in the atmosphere. Far away watching this scene, Ryotsu is skyrocketing. Are you ready to solve it? Seeing Toshiro's state at this time, Natsuki narrowed his eyes slightly. Seriously look at his state at this time, keep it firmly in your heart, and even add Xiaoli to your memory. Now, Toshiro did not discover it all. Before he knew it, the Ryotsu on Natsuki began to draw closer to him. Right now, he is brewing his own power. Ryotsu keeps skyrocketing. And turned into an extremely cold current erupting from the body. While freezing everything around it, it turns into a half-body armor and wraps around the body. Feel the swelling Ryotsu. Toshiro held the knife in one hand, pointed in the direction of Natsuki, and said coldly. Dagoran Hiranmaru. The moment he looked away. But I couldn't help being stunned. I saw that Natsuki in the distance was doing the same operation as me. No, not right. His aura is even stronger. This moment, Natsuki pointed to the sky with a knife in one hand. Boundless ice burst out from the blade, turning the entire sky into a gloomy color. Like a god, endless reiki are transformed into Natsuki's breath, and finally all poured into his body. Boom. There was a thunderbolt from the blue sky, and at this moment, Natsuki swung his sword sharply, and the boundless cold current surged out, threatening to turn everything into ice. But in the end, gathering towards Natsuki's back again, it forms a pair of ice wings, exuding a breathtaking icy breath, and the iconic 3 ice crystals hang vividly behind it. Subsequently, looking at Toshiro, Natsuki let out a breath of cold air, and said coldly. Like rain Xiaoli heaven and earth tribulation hyphenation point change Dagoran Hiranmaru. Sound falls, Hitsugaya Toshiro's mind went blank. How could a travel accident master the solution? The point is, if you use my swastika solution to solve it, what is the situation? Could it be possible to copy the ability of others' Zanpakuto? However, but never thought, while Toshiro was still thinking. Natsuki's attack has already struck silently. I saw him pointing at Toshiro with a single-handed knife, and said with a light smile. Do not know, have you ever experienced the feeling of being frozen by ice? Toshiro regained consciousness instantly. But the next moment, PFF'd. Blood flowed from the corner of the mouth. His eyes widened in disbelief. I saw a long knife with frost strikes from behind. The hard ice armor was pierced through his abdomen all the way as if there was nothing there. No. Impossible. He slowly raised his head and looked into the distance. Natsuki is still standing there, showing no sign of making a move, so who is sneaking up on him? But before he figured out the result, the power of ice contained in this long knife. From the wound, it spread out bit by bit, completely freezing the whole body. It's not that I don't want to resist, but this icy power far exceeds Ryotsu himself. The result of my resistance has actually accelerated the process of freezing. This moment, Toshiro looked down at his reflection in the ice crystals on the ground. As a Shinigami who controls the power of ice, do I end up being frozen in ice by the enemy? Before the mind fades away, he is still thinking, Natsuki. How on earth can he use Hiranmaru's power?